Hi everybody and welcome back to the Health for All Sprint. So we're in our third week, which means that you're about halfway through the sprint at this point. And so far you guys are doing a great job. So if you remember last week, we talked about identifying your priority targets and drafting proto-personas along with the respective customer journey. Now this week, you'll be able to verify your assumption about these groups by actually meeting your customers and beneficiaries.
Week three's topic is important because this is where you will transform your persona assumptions into truths and back them up with facts and evidence gathered on the ground. By doing so, you will be able to later on build an MVP or a first version of a prototype that is actually adapted to your target user's needs. So guys, to begin, before you actually meet your customers and beneficiaries, you have to decide what method to use to gather information from them. There are three different methods that are good for a short time frame, which is actually your case. The first one is simply observation. It's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, all you have to do is observe in the most natural way possible your targets in a given situation and in a given environment while they're using a given product or service that responds to their needs. The second method is conducting in-person interviews and discussions. It's a type of qualitative research wherein you meet and talk directly with your targets to learn more about them, which is more formal than the first method. Lastly, you can choose to send questionnaires or online surveys to your target customers and beneficiaries. Now, this is practical because you don't have to be physically present to collect information from them, and you can send it to a large pool of respondents. Now, once you've selected the best data gathering method, keeping in mind that it can also be a combination of 2 or 3 of them, it's time to draft the interview guide, which comprises of the questions that you're going to ask the respondents. If you remember last week's homework, you should have written down your doubts, your assumptions, and questions about your persona's needs, behavior, customer journey. This is basically what you want to verify during your data gathering. All you have to do is turn these assumptions into questions to ask the respondents. Now, once you have a list of interview questions, finally, you will have to do the field work and collect insights directly from your target customers that you identified through whichever data gathering method that you chose. And of course, once you've collected all this new information, you must synthesize all the data because that's what will allow you to improve your solution. So, guys, for this week we have 3 canvases relating to the concepts that I have just mentioned. The first one is simply preparing the data collection. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, all you have to do is transcribe here all of the assumptions that you have regarding your persona and the assumptions that you have regarding your customer journey. And if it is observation, don't forget to write down the context of this observation, so where it's going to happen. For the second canvas, it's basically your interview guide. So how are you going to collect the data? By means of what questions? And here you can simply write down who are your target respondents. So what is the type of people that you want to gather data from? It can be your potential customers and beneficiaries. Then you write how are you going to reach out to them? So are these people in your network? Is it your family, friends? Are you simply going to send them an email, a message on Facebook, etc.? And lastly, write down what interview questions you will ask them. So basically, you can take the assumptions that you wrote down in the first canvas and transform them into questions and write them down here. And you can also write down whatever additional thing you would like to know from your target respondents and frame these as questions as well. So any additional doubts or things that you wonder about the people you want to meet. And lastly, once you have prepared your guide and met all of your respondents or reached out to them, you have to synthesize the data that you collected. So you have to write it down somewhere and analyze it. This one is a bit more complex. Basically, what you have to do is for each target group or typology of person or of people that you meet, you have to write a short description of the type of person. So the name, age, status, needs, challenges, etc. And then for that person, or that person profile, you write down the elements you have validated, the ones you have invalidated, new things you've learned, and questions you still don't have answers to. And lastly, you also have to write down for this type of person the pain points or obstacles that they have talked to you about during the customer journey. So basically, for each step of the customer journey that you analyzed the last week, you just write down the pain point or the one or multiple pain points that are associated to this step. And basically, you can repeat the process for every type of person that you have met or reached out to throughout your data gathering. So that's basically it for this week's 3 canvases. It's a bit more intense, but it's super exciting. Thank you, guys.
So that's all for week 3. Congrats for making it halfway and things are getting exciting. I'll see you guys again next week for another video on building your first prototype.